name is Ryan Sorrell. I'm a senior here at Loyola, majoring in communications. I was an advocacy and social change major up until about 2 weeks ago. I decided to change my major just for post-collegiate purposes. But just as far as my experience here, definitely had a diverse range of experiences. I don't mean that in the multicultural sense. I mean that as in sometimes I felt excluded, and sometimes I felt like I'm included in the Loyola community. And I think that there's definitely a large gap in the way that people experience the Loyola experience. My personal experience here, excuse me, my, go ahead.
That's fine.
But my personal experience here, I've definitely been involved in a lot of activism just because since I arrived here, I had noticed that there's like a lack of resources, a lack of attention and nurturing for African American students here. So last year we organized a demonstration specifically for that reason, as well as standing in solidarity with the University of Missouri. We thought there was a lot of issues happening here, such as, out of the 10,000 plus students that attend Loyola, only 577 of them were African American students, which is 5.8%. Prior to that, it was 4.8% the year before that. Only like 100 African American freshmen. I think it was 133 that came in this year. So like a very small number of African American students, not very many resources specifically for us. We have one small room in the David Student Center. So it's just, while Loyola does preach itself or say that it is a very diverse place to be or culturally inclusive space, just a lot of Black students here didn't quite feel that way. We felt like we didn't quite get to experience the wholesome version of the Loyola experience that other students, specifically white students, might have felt. So that was part of the reason. We also saw things like one of my good friends, Jason Pica, he did a lot of research for us. One of the things he noticed was that in Loyola's recruiting process, they didn't recruit at any schools in the south side of Chicago, south side inner city, but yet they're going to like all these different states that are outside of Illinois, but they're not even going to the south side of Chicago. And we actually met with President Pelissero when he was the interim president last year, and he told us that basically we brought up the reason to him, and he said that basically his answer was, all the students have to meet the requirements in order to be able to attend Loyola. So essentially kind of saying that they don't go on the south side because they don't think that students would be able to meet the requirements to attend Loyola, which I asked him that directly. I asked him, is that what you're saying? And obviously he kind of beat around the bush a little bit. Those are just the kind of preconceptions and misconceptions that we see about African American students, not only after they get here, but before they get here, and kind of their expectations while we're here also. Heard a lot of stories about students here that just didn't really feel comfortable in the environment. And also, Dr. Joanne Rooney, our new president, first woman president, which I think is good in a sense, or mostly good for white women. Doesn't really do much for women of color, but haven't heard any. So last year, in our demonstration last year, we had 10 demands for African American students. Interim President John Pelissero sent out 2 or 3 messages to the entire Loyola community, expressing their commitment to ensure that they would actually be moving forward in the process of helping African American students. But Dr. Joanne Rooney, we haven't, she hasn't contacted the African American students at all. She hasn't reached out to us. She hasn't sent anything to the Loyola community expressing her intent or intention to commit herself or the institution to helping African American students more, or spending more resources on African American students, or doing better recruiting for African American students. We haven't heard anything from her at all, so my idea is that she doesn't really care, because clearly, we were in the Chicago Tribune last year, we were in the Associated Press, we were in Chicagoist, USA Today, like we were in national magazines, national publications last year talking about the issues that we experience here at Loyola, and then the new president comes in and doesn't say anything about it. So clearly, my take on it is that she doesn't really care and she doesn't really see it as an issue. At least at this point, until she comes out and like says something about it. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of what my experience is. I do think Loyola is a great institution as far as the education that I've received. I think there's definitely also issues with the curriculum here as far as having to take Western civilization before, after 1500, which basically that means taking white history either before or after 1500, which they did say that they're going to make one change to the curriculum, but for the most part, the majority of the classes that are required are still, teaching philosophy of white people or Europeans rather than teaching, there's a lot of other ethnicities in the world. So if we're talking about being a diverse university, that doesn't just mean, bringing specs and like plotting people here and saying like using this for your percentages and putting pictures on your website. It means like actually creating a diverse curriculum and education and like really going beyond just using diversity for a marketing tactic and like using it as something that is actually integrated into what Loyola believes and its values and things like that. Which we do have Plan 2020, which is supposedly supposed to basically help students that are in need. Like they're supposed to be making an intended effort or an extended effort to help students that are in need. Haven't heard anything about Plan 2020 at all this year from not only from Joanne Rooney but anybody in the administration. So just one of the things that me and some other organizers on campus are saying is that the demonstration that we did last year, which was the biggest in Loyola history, we had another demonstration this semester that was very large, like hundreds of